Hey, this is Notser, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Tier 8 Premium American Aircraft Carrier Enterprise. We are on the map Okinawa, and this has sort of an example of being not bottom tier, but not top tier. We're about mid-tier, and I wanted to talk about the way the aircraft carrier works as the bottom tier, and then I also want to talk about the Enterprise. So, the Enterprise is the Tier 8 premium aircraft carrier, and it's the American aircraft carrier with AP bombs. It's the only one, and because of that fact, it's the weakest aircraft carrier for the Americans, because AP bombs right now are not as good as high explosive bombs. High explosive dive bombs can be really effective against aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, even destroyers. They all feel like HE bombs are really good. But AP bombs are really only good against, a battleship, an aircraft carrier, maybe certain angled cruisers, but definitely not against DDs at all. So in the Enterprise, I really have to rely on my Tiny Tims, or my Corsair attack rockets, and my torpedoes. Because my AP bombs, they're not really going to work. And even with the adjusted version of the Enterprise, in 8.0.3, they buffed the health of multiple squadrons. So it should be a little less glass cannon-y feeling. And honestly, because of that change, I think they noticed the bottom tier less than they did prior to the hotfix. But the bottom tier emphasis is still there. And it always has been there for aircraft carriers, and it's always been unfortunate. In the RTS version, you absolutely did not want to be bottom tier, because you really couldn't attack many targets. Maybe you could attack some poorly AA defended targets, but anyone that was American or grouped up, that wasn't happening. And it has that similar quality right now. And I think that's partially because Wargaming is emphasizing tier too much for the carriers, which they always have. They want the AA to feel different from tier 8 to tier 9 to tier 10. Well, that's all great, but the tier 8 carrier still has to contribute. And for the tier 8 carrier to sort of fly its aircraft around because it can't get anywhere close to certain enemies, because it has literally no chance, maybe the AA is a little too powerful against the bottom tier carrier. Just a smidge, maybe a little bit. It's a lot. Certain carriers in certain games have absolutely no chance to contribute any meaningful damage or kills or whatever, because they can't get close to anything, because the AA is just too powerful. And I think it's still there, and honestly, Wargaming, I think this is a question on what you're going for, because in the RTS, this was also the issue. And I felt like, it was a legitimate concern. And yet that concern still exists to this very day. And in fact, it is probably the most universally agreed upon concern, I think, between all the carrier players, regardless of whether you feel like carriers are balanced, overpowered, underpowered. If the carrier is bottom tier, good luck. The surface ships who are 2 tiers higher than the aircraft carrier are probably laughing to the bank, because they're just more powerful. Like this Missouri is a really, really dangerous target for me, but my teammates were able to finish them off. But I feel like, as that bottom tier carrier, you feel that even more so. You feel helpless against certain scenarios, and it just shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't feel helpless. You should feel like you can contribute, and you can contribute damage. And, the same thing should apply. The continuous DPS should absolutely wear you out, but at the rate that it's wearing us out, I don't know that it makes any sense. It's a very noticeable difference between the tier spreads, and it just shouldn't be that way, Wargaming. It really shouldn't be, and I know that this is a design of Wargaming products and all that stuff. Tier is supposed to matter. It does create interesting scenarios where you have to overcome an imbalance, or just the fact that your ship is weaker. That's one thing that I love about this game, and I don't want that to go away. I don't want myself to feel like I can't be a huge contribution. But in a game like this, I got, 30,000 damage. It's 5 minutes in. I've basically kept the Tashkent spotted and killed him. And people can look at that, oh, aren't you picking on the Tashkent? Well, no, the Tashkent played it poorly. He wasn't a smoke build. He decided to sail all the way to A point and act like I wasn't going to try and kill him. He totally deserves that. That's not even a question. Like, anyone who believes for half a second that the Tashkent didn't deserve all the damage he sustained, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. Like, do you deserve to be spotted and killed if you sail too close to the enemy? I would say yes. I'd say that's a pretty big old 10-4 there. But for CVs, no. CVs don't deserve to have anything good in their life, ever. What? Now, this is ill-advised. These are the armor-piercing bombs that the Enterprise has equipped. The Helldiver got a little bit more hit points. I think they had to switch out the aircraft that they had. But attacking the JB, along with, 5 of his best friends, not a good idea. This is clearly not related to bottom tier, high tier. That's not at all. That's just straight, you're bad, Notser, and you should feel bad. Let's kill your entire squadron in half a second because you are bad. That's not up for debate. But what is up for debate is the feeling of being helpless as the bottom tier carrier. And one of the solutions that the game, that the community always goes back to is the +1, -1 spread. Like, this will fix all of their ills. The only reason they suck is because they're bottom tier. Well, I hate to break this to you, no it won't. You have to be able to overcome being bottom tier. That's a sign of a good player. That's part of the design that they've entrenched in not only this game, but all wargaming products. So that's not the issue. And, if they're isolated, they feel possible to attack. Maybe it's more of a question of players need to learn how to take advantage of being bottom tier. For me, it wasn't emphasized as much, but I'm also not farming damage. I am trying to help teammates kill vulnerable targets, which should allow me to rapidly contribute. And I don't need to necessarily stay over the target for the full duration of the squadron to feel like my contribution matters. This attack right here, ill-advised. I should not have done that because I will take losses. I should have just done the first attack, the second attack, maybe, but definitely not the third attack. Absolutely not the third attack. But we did cause a torpedo and cause a flood. Now, one thing that I have been trying to understand myself is this what wargaming intended? Did they intend for your squadrons to crack under pressure faster and for the lower tier to just have to recall quicker? That would easily address that issue as well. And that's just more of a question of changing the way you play the game rather than asking for significant changes to the scenario. And that's an aspect of it that I don't really know precisely, because I'm still trying to learn every nook and cranny of min-max available to me with the aircraft carrier, so I can share that with all of you in eventually a video. But, in this game, I was able to keep the Tashkent spotted. There are multiple enemies that eventually isolated themselves, and it was easy to wear them out and to contribute. And yes, we don't have, amazing damage, but we have a good amount, and it's a good contribution to my team. And as far as the Enterprise is concerned, all of the changes they made in the hotfix, I'm happy about. I feel like they gave the survivability that honestly was never baked into the Enterprise. It got a lot of its survivability from having that slot 6 open, but that's no longer the case. And this is definitely still a work in progress from the Enterprise standpoint. But as far as the bottom tier is concerned, it's just a little too punished right now, wargaming. I want Now, really, my dream would be for Tier 4, Tier 6, Tier 8, and Tier 10 to all have a normalized feeling when it comes to AA. You know, the same sort of time over target you can work into every tier, bottom or top. Maybe as a top tier, you could maybe stay over the target for the full duration of the squad. But equal and bottom tier, you would have to decide, okay, how many losses have I sustained? Do I have enough hit points to still stay alive? Now, here's a mistake I make. I sail too close to the fighter, but in response, I use my heal. And note what it does. The heal is sort of a counter to the fighter itself. And I didn't really consider that. I thought that the fighter would just constantly keep attacking, but it seems like the fighter is going to be doing its attack run, and once the attack run plays out, it automatically recalls. And because of that, I should be able to successfully attack a carrier. I hope you enjoyed this. We were top on the team, and I think it's because I was going after isolated targets, other than that one time. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.